Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about Arcanum tech skills and schematics. And the reason I want to talk about that is I've had enough videos where I've talked about designs changing, other people having better design ideas than me, the whole process of doing a game from start to finish with pillars, design pillars, and so many other considerations, that the reason I want to talk about Arcanum tech skills is I want to talk about something you probably haven't heard about, which is they started completely differently than how they ended up. I was going through my Troika file archive, which is really big, and I found the original master design doc for Arcanum that was written in early 90, late 98, early 99. And I found that originally there were a lot more tech skills than what we planned. So let me walk you through what happened. Originally, skills were divided into basic skills and tech skills. And the basic skills were a lot like what we already had, with the exception of there was no technological skill category. Instead, technological skills were in their own grouping. They were all governed by int. They worked very similarly to basic skills, except while they were limited by int, they didn't start at int didn't add anything to them, so you had to buy them as you went along. They were broken into 4 categories: smithy, mechanical, chemical, and advanced tech. Each one had skills in those categories. The smithy skill only had one, or the smithy category only had one skill: repair. That was for fixing things like swords and shields and armor. The mechanical category had 5 skills. It had shoot guns, pick locks, arm and disarm traps, repair mechanical, and combine mechanical. And what that let you do was, as expected, it controlled simple tech, like guns that used bullets, repairing that kind of item when it got damaged, and also combining them. So you could add scopes to guns or somehow combine 2 guns to get a different gun. That was sort of like schematics, but it was very less defined than that. The chemical category had create heal powder, create bullet, and that you had a lot of different types. Create dynamite, create fuel, and create battery. So the chemical one was interesting because it was all, here's the exact thing that it creates. It was very much like the schematics we ended up with. And then the advanced technology skills had shoot advanced tech weapon, repair advanced tech weapon, and combine advanced tech weapon. Very similar to the mechanical skill, but this was for all the advanced Arcanum weaponry, like stun guns or flamethrowers. Anything that didn't shoot a bullet. These never got implemented. This was part of the original design pass I did, but Jason Anderson really liked the tech side of things, and he didn't really like these skills. So he put together a new system, which is the one we shipped with, where 4 of the skills that I mentioned got moved into the regular skill system in their own technology category. So remember, there was combat, thieving, and social. We added a technological and put repair, firearms, pick lock, and arm disarm trap in there. Then Jason came up with the idea of making a whole bunch of schematics and putting them into particular categories, which he called tech disciplines. We had 8 of those. And those were smithy, which was the armor, melee weapons, armor, shields. Mechanical, which were any gadgets that worked purely mechanically. Gunsmithy, which was all the weapons. Electrical, which was anything with charges and magnetism. Herbology, which is sort of we originally called it anatomical. It was the body and any substances that would affect it. Therapeutics, which were man-made materials affecting the body. The herbology was natural materials. chemistry, which were man-made substances that were deleterious, and explosives, which was new and unstable substances. So the way those worked is each one of those disciplines had 7 degrees that ranged from novice to doctor. And whenever you spent a point in it, you advanced in a degree, and you also got a schematic. Now, these schematics were what we called the learned schematics. And he added a bunch of ideas for beyond the learned ones. The idea was sort of like the learned ones were the ones you were guaranteed to have because you spent a point in it, it was automatically granted. It's the thing you learned how to make when you advanced your degree. Then there were 2 other categories, though, of schematics. The found schematics and the purchased schematics. The found schematics were schematics that could be in any one of those disciplines that we would drop in the world for loot. So they could be in a chest, they could be carried by somebody. Basically, they were things you found when you were out and exploring. And then we had the purchased schematics, which we would actually put in shopkeeper inventories around the world. So you might be in a herbologist shop, and she might have a couple herbologist schematics for sale. And what's interesting is no matter where you got these, how you got them, once you knew them, they all worked the same way, which was that it had 2 ingredients that you had to find, and then the schematic told you how to combine them to get the 3rd thing, which was the result. So what I loved about this, Jason designed all of this. What I loved about it was it put the skill ones back into the skill tree we already had. It took the things that built stuff and actually made an entirely new system out of it, the schematics. And what I loved about it as the programmer is they every schematic worked the exact same way. Here are 2 things that combine to become this 3rd thing. So it's very easy to make the schematics data-wise, to make an inventory, to figure out how they would pull things from inventory, to make a UI for them. It was basically a very clean, wonderful design. And that's what we shipped with. What made me think about doing this video, though, was in early 2017, this was well into the development of the Outer Worlds, but the Outer Worlds had me thinking of crafting and how that would work again. And I was reminded of Arcanum and how much I really, really loved this system. And so I ended up going through the files I had for Arcanum, because I've got everything. And while I don't have a lot of the models, those are on a DAT file somewhere, a DAT tape that I don't own, I did have a lot of the 2D art. And so I ended up, it's not very big, but I ended up printing a book, which I love. Arcanum Technological Schematics. And what I just thought was funny, and this is just how my brain works, is I divided them. Here are the schematics that you learn by discipline. So I would print out the chemistry schematics. Then I had, well, here are the gunsmithy schematics. I really loved the art on this was so good. It was so good. I love how just everything looked like it was on a papyrus or old, paper, and it just was really cool. But what I did for this book is then I had a section on the found schematics, which I broke down by where you found them. So here are all the ones you find in Ashbury. Here are all the ones you found in the Black Mountain clan mines. Here are the ones, that has to be, yeah. Here are the ones you find in the Vendigroth ruins, which are, really crazy stuff, like the war gauntlets and bizarre guns. And then, if you keep going, I have a whole section on the purchase schematics. And I have those broken down by, I think it was what type of store would have this. So there was armories, there were gun shops. In the explosive section, there were gun shops in the gun section. And herbalists. Like I said, you might go into an herbalist shop and there's the fortifier. What I loved about is the art was broken down by how we plan to use it in the game. So here are the schematics you find by location, or here are the purchase schematics you find by shop type. It was just, when we did things like that, it tickled the programmer part of my designer brain, but it also meant when I went to go put this book together, it was very easy to do so. So it's something I love that I own. It's something very unique. I kind of wish I had made a bigger one. And when I selected it online, I thought I was selecting a slightly larger size. The other reason I want to do this video is this is a perfect example of, there was a design I put together, but then someone else had a much better idea. So that was what got implemented, and that was got put in the game. So what you saw and played and enjoyed in Arcanum was Jason Anderson's design. And I think it was a much better design than what I originally put together. And I like explaining that stuff because I know I talk a lot about these things, and people tend to attribute a lot to me that I didn't do. And I like to make sure that everybody understands who did what. And I say this a lot, like I almost never wrote dialogue except in Temple. So if you love all the dialogues in Arcanum, those were a lot of other people. Those were Leonard and Jason and Sharon and Chad Moore. There were so many dialogues that were written by other people. So I just hope you like the game, and I really hope you like the text schematics. I liked them so much, I got a book on them.